Why you didn't tell me this, Diamond?
Because King Kilo wants D-Mac dead.
What?
That's right. So I've let him back in CBI to keep him close so I could protect him. So I could try to figure out some man.
Now, we know Power can be very unpredictable. They love twists and turns, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of WTF moments, probably starting with episode 5. I do think episode 5 will be a huge episode, but there are a couple of things we do know for sure. 1. The relationship that Tommy and Diamond have, them at the top of CBI's hierarchy, running the biggest organization and coalition in Chicago, that definitely is about to crumble. Or should I say maybe take a turn with Tommy being the one who loses out in that particular triangle. We know Janard and Diamond are going to be strengthening their bond, we know their brotherhood will become stronger, and they have also been teasing blood is thicker than water. So that's number 1. Number 2, when that happens, not if. When Tommy gets kicked out of the CBI and becomes a lone wolf, alliances will begin to shift, and that's the second thing I'm sure of. We always go on the evidence, facts and findings, and also based on history in terms of what we've seen before in the world of power, common trends, and those are arguably the biggest two, fractured relationships which then lead to new and unlikely alliances. And that's the topic of today's breakdown. Tommy, Janard, and Diamond, but also how Shanti will factor into this entire situation as well, and how Tommy and Shanti's interests could actually align a bit later on, in all things Power Book 4 Force, Season 3. Now, I do think it's clear to see that Tommy and Diamond's relationship is a ticking time bomb. There's been a few moments in just this season alone, and that's not even counting the moments of conflict in Season 2. Just in Season 3 alone, there's been a few occasions where Diamond snapped back at Tommy and told him that we're partners, I don't take orders, we're equal. Which I do agree with, they are equal partners, but in order for it to work, there has to be trust. And I do think that trust is broken between the two. Tommy's been keeping things from Diamond, and Diamond's also been keeping things from Tommy. Most importantly, the fact that he tried to get rid of his nephew in D-Mac. He called a hit in episode 1, and if his and Janard's plan did succeed with the 9/7s, D-Mac would have been no more. He gave Tommy half the truth, which made it sound convincing at the time, but we all know it's still a ticking time bomb. We even had Janard say it when he went over to Shanti. Tommy and Diamond are beefing. Ain't no way they survived this bullshit. They're both lying to each other, which you definitely can't disagree with. We've been through Tommy and Diamond's relationship over the past few weeks, and we've been through a couple of examples of how it's giving shades of Tommy and Ghost back in power as well. But I think something I didn't mention was, at the end of the day, Tommy and Ghost were brothers, and despite their beef that we saw between them, they always found a way to come back together. Whether it was Holly who was in between, whether it was Milan, Jason Michich, Kanan, Vincent Ragni and the Italians when they kidnapped Tariq, they always found a way to fight most of these problems together, and also pick the other over the likes of characters like Holly and Milan. And I do think that's important to remember when we talk about what's to come next.
We have no idea who could be having his back right now.
He ain't gonna stop till he...
Janard and Diamond are definitely strengthening their bond. I previously spoke about it in my last breakdown when we went through Tommy and D-Mac, but Joseph Sikora did kind of speak about it prior to Season 3. He likened Janard and Diamond's relationship to his and Ghost's, and he knows that brothers can fight. He knows that brothers can beef. But at the end of the day, that brotherhood, that will always be stronger than any kind of partnership between Tommy and Diamond. The brotherhood will always be stronger than Janard and Shanti's relationship as well. At this moment in time, Janard isn't happy with Diamond because he's put all this work in recently. He said he held down the CBI for 15 years, which, again, is something I broke down in a lot more detail in this particular breakdown, and it is still relevant post-episode 4. This is the breakdown where I go through what Janard has done for the CBI and what Tommy has done for the CBI. Had Tommy put the CBI back on the map? So definitely worth catching up on that if you haven't already. I will link it down below for those who haven't seen it. But Janard isn't happy with Diamond at this moment in time. He's put in work, he's worked some magic with King Kilo, so he believes. I personally don't think so. The clue was actually there when he said he needs to get confirmation from the SODs. And when he presses the SODs, who's to say Malik doesn't crumble? Or who's to say King Kilo still doesn't want that body of D-Mac? So definitely one to keep in mind when it comes to that situation between King Kilo, Janard, and D-Mac. With Janard, all he wants is to be shown respect and be given a seat at the table at the top of the CBI, as he believes it should be, both brothers running the CBI, not an outsider. Which, when you kind of think about it, kind of sounds very similar to the situation Kane found himself back in Power Book 2 Ghost. He was kicked out of the Tejadas, but that was because of his own doing, kind of how like Janard messed up in Power Book 4 Force. He believed that he earned this respect and earned a seat at the table, only for him to be replaced by an outsider in Tariq St. Patrick. Same thing with Janard in Power Book 4 Force. All he wants is to be shown respect and be given a seat at the table, but standing in his way at this moment in time is an outsider in Tommy Egan. I do think both situations are very similar, but I do think Diamond will eventually come around. Eventually, I do think we'll see the brothers back on top of CBI together, And that really is bad news for Tommy, but also bad news for Shanti at the same time. Shanti needs Janard to work his way back into the CBI for her to get her way in.
I told you to get close to D. You having pillow talk with him. You out here making solo moves, Jay.
No, come on.
Since season 2, she's been plotting and scheming, and in season 3, she's been telling Janard to get closer to Diamond, gain his trust, get him to talk, get him to trust you over Tommy, because that's also her way in. But I do think we're getting to that stage where Janard seems to be doing his own thing or following Diamond rather than Shanti, which is something she is beginning to recognize from episode 4. Straight away, she told Raheem that she made the wrong call in betting on Janard, and we also had tone and demeanor change when Janard said that he had to go convince King Kilo D-Mac wasn't the one to kill Mad Dog after all. That wasn't what they planned back in episode 1. So the fact that Janard and Diamond are strengthening their bond, it's also a bad thing for Shanti, which she definitely is beginning to recognize. Now just hold on to that thought around Shanti, we're going to come back around to her in just a moment. It's going to make sense when we come to the final chapter of Tommy and Shanti. Now on Tommy, it definitely is bad news for him as well.
Just get him talking. We can move in before he tries anything.
Is anyone working with Tommy?
No, he's a lone wolf now.
This is something we're still yet to see play out, him becoming a lone wolf, but you can see them setting the foundation for it to happen. We know something else will also bring Tommy to team up with Miguel as well. I think for that to happen, and for them to create an unlikely alliance, something has to happen to Maria for Tommy and Miguel to team up. That's the only way I see that particular triangle making a change. Just like we're about to go through in just a moment with Tommy and Shanti, for Tommy and Miguel to come together, their interests have to align on the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of thing. Whether that means Maria is caught in a crossfire, do the Marquez cartel hurt Maria, could she potentially be kidnapped by Shay? That's something he did mention back in season 2, and we all know Miguel is plotting behind Shay's back to work with a rival cartel. That's also another way they could kind of come together. But definitely the one way Tommy and Miguel come together is because something would have happened to Maria. So it definitely sets it up for alliances to completely shift and change. Tommy and Diamond will no longer be partners, Janard and Diamond will be strengthening their bond, Shanti and Janard look like they're going to be going their separate ways, and she also seems to have Raheem on her side too. Tommy and Miguel will end up working together at some point, and that means you also have to ask the question, what about Miguel and Roberto Ortega? What about their deal and their alliance? I always mention at the start of a Power season, just keep an eye on the cracks that start to appear early on, the tension, problems that partners have, because those are the guys that will probably be involved when alliances do eventually shift. I mean, it's power, and everybody's after that money, power, powder, and respect, and if they're not getting it from their current position that they're in, they definitely will shift and make it happen, even if it means stabbing someone in the back, just like we went through with Janard and Shanti. Now, with that being said, I would not be surprised in the slightest if Shanti somehow manages to rise to power, because if you think about Shanti's position at this moment in time, I mean, yeah, she does want Tommy dead because he's at the top of the CBI, and we all know she wants control over CBI. But at some point over the next 2 or 3 episodes, Tommy will become a lone wolf. So what good is it for Shanti to actually kill Tommy, which we know would never happen anyway, but what good would it do for Shanti targeting Tommy when he's no longer at the top of the CBI? If anything, their interests may actually align. We've all heard the saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and I do think that's where Tommy and Shanti could actually be in the next couple of episodes, where eventually he gets ousted from the CBI and becomes that lone wolf, Shanti won't need to target Tommy anymore, and Tommy could probably use Shanti's help to bring them down, and in turn, give her something for her help. We know she can't be trusted, and that's something Tommy definitely does need to keep in mind. She's a character who definitely flip-flops a lot, but we have seen enemies working together when it does involve a common goal, and with the scenario that I've just given, honestly, it's not hard to think that it probably is a kind of a logical scenario. You also factor in Janard and Diamond strengthening their bond and Janard flipping on Shanti's plan. That's something that definitely will piss Shanti off. We're still yet to see the scene where Shanti grabs a baseball bat and damages Janard's car. There definitely will be big beef between Janard and Shanti, that's for sure. And we all know the beef that Janard and Tommy have had ever since season 1. So genuinely, you can actually see Tommy and Shanti's interests aligning, at least for a brief period later on this season. And this is what I mean about alliances shifting and completely turning upside down. I have no doubt in my mind there will come a time where Tommy and Shanti's interests align at some point in season 3, and it will be thanks to Janard and Shanti falling out and Tommy being kicked out of the CBI and becoming a lone wolf. They'll both want to bring down the CBI, so why not team up? Even if it's just for a brief period where both of them kind of get what they want. In the end, I still think Tommy needs to keep eyes at the back of his head when it comes to Shanti because she can easily flip. That's something he'll definitely need to keep in mind, but again, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that's what I think will be important heading into what I would say is the later stages of season 3. The cracks are definitely there. Relationships are beginning to crack. Relationships are beginning to break. Some are on very thin ice. Business partnerships are also on very thin ice. and they've definitely set the perfect foundation for a storm. Now it's just time for them to tear these relationships up so the new alliances can then form, which in turn will also lead to a big battle in Chicago for the throne. And that's actually a great question to kind of end on. Who do you guys think will be the top dog in Chicago come the end? We know Tommy's journey will continue into Legacy, whether that be New York, LA, or wherever else. I personally think they will be going back to New York, but if Tommy leaves Chicago, who's sitting on the throne? Or is it Tommy kind of being the major connect in Chicago? He leaves it to be run by someone else while he goes and tries to conquer New York again. Who do you guys think will be the top dog in Chicago come the end of 4 Season 3? Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.